Disaster in Dallas as the Jets drop a 30-10 decision on the road to the Cowboys. Blowout loss. Let's talk about it here. I'm Glenn Naughton with JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. 30-10 loss. Twitter, of course, wants Zach Wilson's head. It's all Zach Wilson's fault. How could the Jets trust Zach Wilson to beat the Cowboys? Zach Wilson, Zach Wilson, 12 for 27, 170 yards, one touchdown, three interceptions. Let's break this down. Let's look beyond the box score and beyond the hatred that some people have for this kid. First of all, let's remember so that we don't, move the goalposts because I know nobody would ever intentionally move the goalposts. Let's talk about the expectations or what everybody wanted or hoped for from Zach Wilson. Um, just manage the game, Zach. Just manage the game. We have an elite defense and run game. All we need you to do is manage the game and don't turn it over. Well, Zach Wilson did that for 3+ quarters, and he was still getting his ass kicked. Offensive line allowing a pressure rate of 70%. I've heard Jets fans complain about this offensive line in the past. Oh, this O line is like a sieve. It's so bad. It's so terrible. We're so trash. And then you look at the numbers afterwards, and they allowed 25% pressure rate, which isn't great. But it's tonight was a sieve. 70%. 70. Zach, we just need you to manage the game. Everything else is elite. It's just about you managing the game. 70% pressure rate. Zach, don't worry about it. Listen, our run game is awesome. All you have to do is manage the game because our run game is phenomenal. Brees Hall, 4 carries for 9 yards. Michael Carter, 2 carries for 8 yards. Dalvin Cook, 4 carries for 7 yards. No run game. Why? Because Dallas stacked the box. Because they wanted Zach Wilson to prove he could beat them, which is something you kind of expected to happen. But even as Zach Wilson started to play a little bit better, he started to do a little bit more. The Jets never went back to the run game. Dallas was in man coverage. Zach Wilson, again, even when he had opportunities, early on, the Jets didn't throw the ball at all. And when they did, guys were covered. It was highlighted on the broadcast. You saw it if you're following the Jets beat writers on Twitter. Zach finally drops back. Nobody's open. So he's rolling out. He's throwing it away. He throws the ball over the middle to Randall Cobb. Cobb loses his footing, slips and falls. So Zach Wilson was doing, hey, Zach, our defense is phenomenal. All you have to do is manage the game. Dak Prescott completed 80 million passes in a row. Jets couldn't get off the field on third down. 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, 3rd and whatever. Dallas just first down, first down, first down. Dallas ran about a million plays. The Jets ran 20 some. No, they ran more than that. Zach threw it 27 times. But either way, time of possession. Just look at the time of possession. Dallas, I believe, had it for 40 plus minutes, 42 minutes. Robert Salas just said in the presser. 42 minutes to 18 minutes. So let's not move the goalposts here. The expectation was defense will be elite, running game will be elite, and all we'll need Zach Wilson to do is manage the game. He was managing the game, and it didn't matter because the defense was missing tackles left and right, giving up big plays left and right. Not big in terms of yardage, but key plays in big spots, allowing Dallas to convert on third down, time and again. Missed tackles, missed coverages. So the defense was terrible. The run game was non-existent. Dalvin Cook, the man we had to have. Listen, I love Joe Douglas, but it feels like every offseason Joe Douglas has to make one move that makes you go, "Are you just checking to see if we're paying attention, Joe?" Like I literally I wrote an article about 12 hours before the Jets signed Dalvin Cook. I believe the title was "Now is the time for the Jets to pull their offer to Dalvin Cook," and 12 hours later, he was signed. He's through 2 games. He's averaging about 2 yards a carry. He's got a fumble. Nothing, no plays of any significance. Lost a fumble tonight. Sauce dropped what would have been a pick six. He got beat for a touchdown early on. You don't see that a lot. Sauce Gardner, the first couple games, hasn't been Sauce Gardner. So instead of putting this on Zach, who, again, what was the expectation? Get better as a player and manage the game, and everyone else will handle the rest. Zach Wilson got better. I've been saying it for weeks. How many times did you see the pocket collapse around him tonight, and he hung tight? He waited, waited, waited for someone to come open, and either took off and ran, or completed a pass, or got a pass off. Would have had a touchdown to Garrett Wilson, if not for the fact a defensive lineman was able to get through and hit his hand mid throw. So Zach Wilson was far from the problem. Now, again, as I said, the detractors, they're going to hold that box score up and go, look, 3 interceptions. I told you that guy sucked. I told you he was no good. Ignore everything else. Ignore the fact that the 3 interceptions came in the fourth quarter when you're down by a million and you're trying to force something. Ignore the fact that the defense came, didn't come to play. Ignore the fact, again, no running game, no defense. Receivers, again, um, several plays where they had an opportunity to make a play and didn't. So, listen, Zach was far from perfect, but for the first 3+ quarters, he did exactly what everyone said he needed to do. Just manage the game and don't lose it for us. Are we going to pretend now that he lost the game? They were down by 20. They were down 17-20 in the fourth quarter when he started turning the ball over. Game was over. It was over. 70%, 69%, I believe, was the actual number tweeted out by Rich Samini. But let's go ahead and I feel pretty comfortable rounding that up and saying 70. 70% pressure rate, couldn't run the ball, couldn't play defense. And we got people yelling about Zach Wilson, who, again, wasn't great, was maybe good for the first 3+ quarters. But if this team was as advertised, if the defense was the 85 Bears, and if the running game was this elite run game that I still think they can be, um, if you plug in Izzy Abanikanda and swap him out with Dalvin Cook. So the players are there to be what they're supposed to be, but today they weren't that. The run game gave no support, defense gave no support. You basically ask Zach Wilson to be an elite quarterback. Like, hey, Zach, no one else is doing anything right today, so we're going to need you to go out and throw 4 or 5 touchdowns. So we moved what we wanted him to do from we need you to manage it to we need you to win it. So it was ugly all around. Highlight of the game for the Jets, of course, Zach Wilson hits Garrett Wilson over the middle on a strike. He takes it the distance for what I believe was a 68-yard touchdown. Wilson had another throw later in the game that was one of the best we've seen out of him. Alan Lazard didn't stay in bounds, and there was a hold and all that, but Zach Wilson rolling right to left, turns his body as he gets closer to the sideline, launches it down the sideline, and hit Alan Lazard on what looked like a 30-some yard completion. Turned out Lazard, even though he had plenty of room, didn't get one of his feet down, and then they called a hold on the Jets. So one of those in the box score looks like nothing, but as Tony Romo said on the broadcast, those are the throws you see that make you think Zach Wilson is worth sticking with. Mecole Hardman, non-factor again, 1 catch for 6. Well, I mean, look, again, they scored 10 points, and I just told you Garrett Wilson scored on a 68-yard touchdown. So beyond that, there wasn't a whole lot. Defensively, Quincy Williams was good and bad, which has been the case with him many times. I would say he was more good than bad, though. I'm not here. I'm not here to rip him. Jordan Whitehead was all over the place again. Led the team with 9 tackles. Quinnen Williams didn't have the day we expected. Listen, Dallas was down to their third guard by the time by what just after halftime, I believe. Dak, I'm not sure. I'm gonna pull it up right now as I'm talking. I don't think the Jets had more than 1 sack. They had 1 sack, Solomon Thomas. That was it. So for all the hype and as good as this team is supposed to be, and Dallas being banged up on the O line, this fierce pass rush that's supposed to be carrying this team, 1 sack. Will McDonald inactive. He's a guy that listen. I like the player. I really do. But as I said at the time of the pick, or at when the draft wrapped up, if you heard myself and Chris Schubert and Dylan Terman, we did a draft recap, and Chris Schubert and I both kind of agreed and said it feels like the Jets are drafting guys that they don't feel like they'll need this year. Like, it's supposed to be a Super Bowl year, and they were drafting guys as if they were already a defending Super Bowl champion, um, that they can just use sparingly. And that's you got McDonald inactive today, Abanikanda inactive today. Carter Warren, of course, is on IR. We'll talk about him in a second. Zaire Barnes has been inactive, but he should be late round pick. He's not ready. Um, Joe Tippmann, who we thought might start, isn't starting, obviously. So you've got almost an entire draft class not playing. In a year that it was like, hey, all hands on deck. Let's get ready to win something. So I get it. It's only week 2, but still, if you use that pick on a player who could be in every down, which was kind of my point, right? When I said that I liked McDonald as a talent, but I said I wish they would have used that pick on someone who's going to be a guy who plays 80+% of the snaps, 70, 80% of snaps. Will McDonald, as you know, played what, 12, 13 last week, 0 this week. So, um, and again, he might, don't confuse this with I don't like him. I think he's a great player. I think he's going to be a great player. And I get that he plays a premium position, and I get that Carl Lawson is probably gone after this year. I get all of it. I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. But what I don't get is why you didn't grab somebody who could contribute now in a win now season, and it would have helped because really, and this is the receiving core. Granted, the Corey Davis retirement nobody really saw coming, but as we said, outside of Garrett Wilson, pretty pedestrian, and that's what they've been. And if you'd have added D Hop or drafted JSN, you'd be in much better shape. Obviously, that didn't happen. That's another conversation for another time. But as far as this game goes, tonight, a lot of guys didn't show up. Zach Wilson wasn't one of them. As much as Twitter would have you believe he came out and just threw interceptions on the first 3 drives, and that's how the Jets were down, 50-0 in the opening quarter, and it's all on Zach Wilson. That's not the reality of it. He came out, Zach Wilson. All here's what it boils down to: Zach Wilson came out and did what everyone said they wanted him to do. Just come out and don't lose the game for us. He did that, and even when he did it, they're down 20 in the fourth quarter, 17 in the fourth, whatever. So they got blown out. Wasn't on Zach. People are going to say it was. But listen, there are some people that want to see it. Like they've been saying for so long that he's going to fail that now they're so invested in him failing that they've got to have it happen or they're going to look wrong. So for my money, we saw improvement across the board. The late picks, I don't, I don't care. I don't. You're down 17 in the fourth quarter. I don't care. Um, Run game has to be better next week. Why? Listen, Jeremy Ruckert um, had an absolutely phenomenal game last week as a blocker. Even early when the Jets ran it a few times, I don't. Maybe he was out there. I didn't see him. Can he get a target? Can Jeremy Ruckert get a target? I think he's got 2 since being drafted. Maybe this team only views him as a blocking tight end. Based on what I saw from him in college, guy had some incredible hands, and I thought he'd be a factor wherever he was drafted. Jets obviously feel differently. One thing I will say about Zach Wilson that's really surprising um, is how often, because, look, we get the Aaron Rodgers as the mentor. Aaron Rodgers is the guy bringing him along, teaching him everything he knows. And we know how Aaron Rodgers avoids the middle of the field. He stays out of there because that's where interceptions happen. Zach Wilson lives in the middle of the field. So many balls over the middle. Um, Again, some picked, some not, but really just surprising to see how often he likes to throw there. But either way, Jets lose 30-10. Embarrassing loss. Nobody shows up. Just about nobody. Again, Garrett Wilson could have had a big day if Zach makes a better throw on that pick on the ball that was intercepted by Hooker. If Zach Wilson's hand doesn't get hit on what could have been a touchdown pass just before the half. So more great stuff from Garrett Wilson, who left the game late, but haven't heard anything on any injury with him. We'll keep you posted. That'll do it for this one. Jets fall 30-10. A bunch of no shows. Zach Wilson solid early, fell apart late. Not a lot to talk about outside of those key takeaways. Jets, they got to get better. New England's up next, and we will catch you guys Thursday night. Myself, Dylan Turman, Chris Schubert. Have a good one, Jets fans.